Welcome to Nerds by Screenlight. My name is Aaron.
I'm Vicki.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Zoe.
And so today's episode is all about Little Women.
My favorite.
Woo!
There are two movie versions, I believe, correct? There are two
Three.
movies.
There's even more. Because
even
there's more. It goes way back.
Okay. Well, the two major ones that we're aware of
Yes.
is the Winona Ryder version with whoever else, and then this version, which has Emma Watson as one of the actresses in the roles.
Yes.
So today is all about Little Women. So our opening question, if you will, is going to be about Little Women, because why not? And the question is, which character, and because Zoe clarified, she asked the question, I was like, all right, fine. We'll let you expand. Which character in the movie of Little Women do you identify with the most, and why?
And why?
Yes, and why?
You
I
should
guess
go
I'll start.
first.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll go first.
Somebody start.
I mean, not perfectly, but I feel like I relate to Beth in terms of her love of music. And especially, like, there's a scene in the movie where she wants to play, but she's so shy, she doesn't want to inconvenience anybody. Yeah. And Aaron, that was very much a conversation at the beginning of our marriage, with me wanting to play music. Was like, oh, am I going to bother you? And that kind of goes back to some family stuff. Like my dad has some mental health issues, and every time I play the piano, it gave him a headache. So that was something that I feel like I could relate to with Beth. And I have my most favorite present I ever got was a piano when I was a kid. That's a really precious, vivid memory, and so I can relate to just her feeling of amazement that she was given one. And like her, it was a surprise.
Yeah. Nice. Phil or Zoe?
I honestly don't know, so I will let Zoe decide who I would be.
She gets to tell you who you are.
Well, because it's the first time I've seen this movie. I haven't seen any of the older ones or anything. So I mean, maybe if I had to pick, it would maybe be Amy.
Okay.
Just because she can be mean sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not really mean, but I don't know. She just seemed more relatable to me.
She
personally.
stands up for herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Okay.
Zoe's giving us a look of y'all are going to have to just deal with this.
Oh boy.
I'm still trying to figure out why, but I've always related to Lori, Teddy.
Okay.
Okay.
And this Teddy was very interesting
Yeah.
compared
Yes.
to the 1994 one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just love that he's so charismatic and outgoing and just always there to help any of the girls, I feel like, whenever
Yeah.
they're going through their toughest part of their life. So I guess that's why.
Okay. I've been told by Vicki that Joe is my copy, or my doppelganger, if you will. And part of the reason why is because she's a writer and I'm a writer, but also because she's Sassy Pants McGee, and I could be Sassy Pants McGee myself.
Well, even the comments about you've got this thing on your dress. Just I know, but I don't care. That's
I largely just don't care.
The ink on her hands.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
yeah. That's just
Okay, that's fair. All right. Well, that's the opener. We will. So you're the two who have seen the other version. I have
Yes.
not seen the 1996 one.
and read the book.
And the book as well. So you guys are going to have to lend us some
Yep.
historical context as we go through the scenes, we go
Sure.
through the movie, because that's going to be a thing we're going to be working on. All right. Well, coming up after this intro music, we are going to dig into Little Women, this was yours,
Yes.
your perfect 10.
Yep.
Which we will see if it holds up with the rest of us. If the rest of us decide that it's a perfect 10. So we'll be back here in a moment after this.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please
I get stout.
talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We can all do the clapping situation.
1, 2, 3.
All right.
There we go.
Okay.
Get it.
All right. Welcome back to Nerds by Screenlight. My name is Aaron.
I'm Vicki.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Zoe.
And so it's Little Women. Let us begin by, and you'll have to, again, you two have seen the 1996 version, is the dynamic where we flash from past and present.
No.
present
No, it's not in
It's
the
chronological order.
Okay. So,
And I have something to say about that.
Phil, tell us how you feel.
So-
Give us your feelings, Phil.
I love the movie. I'm gonna start off with that.
Yeah.
The first 45 minutes were extremely hard for me to get into.
Yep.
I tried to help as much as.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So to Phil's point, and we'll go if you're listening. Don't worry, we'll go. I've got my notes of my in order conversation about the movie, but yeah, this overall, I guess we'll take a big an overview. There it is.
Yep.
We're not in a boat.
No.
The overview of it is that it felt like like Phil said, the first 45 minutes, this movie didn't quite click. It wasn't that it was a bad movie or that it was badly written, but for whatever reason, that first 45 minutes was just it's not that it was a hot mess, but it just felt distracted.
You
And
had
I-
to know the background.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, which
it's-
I think is where you and I have the advantage because we know the story
Yeah.
so well.
So I'm like right away, this is the future.
yeah, you
So
know.
I was like, this is the future, Phil. So don't freak out.
Well, eventually, like you can pick up on it because of the
Cinematography.
the way that they shoot the past.
There's
yeah.
different color filters
Yeah.
between the
different
past and the
color
future.
schemes. Yeah.
So, and they do it a little bit with, they give you like, hey, this is, then they go 7 years ago, and then they just basically let you have to figure it out on your
Yep.
own.
Yep.
And and this is the thing about, so the director of this movie also did the Barbie movie.
Yes.
And so she's got some directing chops.
And some acting chops.
Yes. So the thing about this is me and Phil are not, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, this movie wasn't made for us. Like, we are not fans of the
We're
the
not
book.
the demographic.
Yeah, we're not the demographic.
Right.
Here's the thing that, again, it's an outsider's view. If you're going to make a movie that has history like Little Women does,
Yeah.
you have to, if you want that movie to be successful and beloved and to really make a mark, you have to kind of work overtime to make that movie not only palatable to fans and interesting to fans and whatever, but if you want it to go beyond just that small corner fan base, you got to make it so it works with everybody. 45 minutes in, after 45 minutes, I was like, okay, movie's functioning. We're back. We're on track. I can keep track for the most part of the past and the present. Like, I was making notes.
And checking with me.
I was like, are you past the present now? And so I think on a second viewing, it would probably be a lot better.
Yeah.
I agree.
There's that first 45 minutes of the movie where it's just like, it's like the first, again, this is a really weird comparison, but just go with me as I take us on a roller coaster ride across the park of our conversation. It felt like the first 45 minutes of Batman. If you've ever watched Batman, the first one with Michael Keaton.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, the
I
first
see that.
the first 45 minutes of Batman it's not really a Batman movie. It feels disorganized. It feels like it's not really trying. It's kind of just experimenting. Halfway through, or 45 minutes, maybe a third of the way through, the Batman movie finally, something happened. It clicked. They got their crap together, and the movie functions, and it's a fantastic
But
film.
it gives you context.
Yeah.
That is important.
So in this way, it felt the same way as that beginning of that Batman movie in the first 45 minutes. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, what's going
Yeah,
on
I'm like,
here?
what's the story here? Like,
Right.
what is the
Yeah.
actual overall
Yeah.
story going on?
Yeah. So,
Like-
I mean, if we had probably watched the original Little Women from 96, that would have made a lot more sense because
Yeah.
it was sequential in order. And there's this thing in modern cinema, in television shows. Resident Evil did this. Phil, you watched some of Resident Evil,
Not the series,
the series? Oh,
just the movies.
okay. Well, the series we talked about how it was a disaster.
Yeah.
So it did that too.
Yeah.
It went back.
Oh
into-
yeah, they did do that. I
back.
read about that.
Yeah, and it was just maddening because it was so like there wasn't a reason for it. Like, just tell us the story today and reference the past through some conversations and dialogue, but give us the story. And a lot of movies and television shows recently have done this, where they'll do this kind of parallel storytelling where they're going into the past and they're in the future, and they're doing it so that you can understand the duality of the story and the plot arcs and how the characters are developing. And in some cases it works, but there's not a lot where it works like this. In this movie, it functions until 45 minutes in, and then the pace picks up
Yeah,
and
then
it
it
works.
works.
Then we're like going back and forth. And the nice thing about this movie overall is that it does trust you to kind of figure stuff out. And in some ways, it could have done a little more at the beginning, whatever. But it tells a story, and it doesn't like the stuff you learn about the past. It doesn't repeat it in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. There is a unique tale told through the story in the past. There's a unique tale told through the story of the future, and it does work because when we get to with Beth and her
Yeah.
situation, that's where this film really sings.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she lives in the past, and then we flip to the future, and we have a repeat of the same kind of discovery, and it's not a good ending because
Yeah.
she's not at the table, and her mom is there, and she's like,
I don't know if I know a woman who's read this book who has not cried when Beth's when Beth dies.
It's the saddest part of the
Yeah.
whole.
Well, and we'll talk about what this movie earns. 98.5% of this movie, the moments it does, the moments where we are supposed to feel something, it absolutely earns them.
Yeah.
I don't, and you know me, I'm a pretty pessimistic guy when it comes to cinema and movies. Like I'm like, you didn't earn that. Get out of here. You're fired. Blah, blah, blah. This movie,
Yeah.
98.5. I would almost say 99.9% of the moments.
Say 99.9%, Aaron.
Yeah, 99.9%.
It makes you feel stuff.
It makes you feel, but not in a way that's like it's corny
Right.
or like it's manipulative. They're telling a genuine story here, and they're making you go, "Oh, that hurts. Oh, that hurts. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling like." Yeah, so it's. I wouldn't say that it's a perfect 10 from my perspective going in
I kind of
at the end, but it's pretty darn close. If they could have figured out that first 45 minutes a lot smoother, this movie would be a perfect 10 without question for me. But we'll stop talking about the overall view and we'll start with the beginning. So, the opening scene is very stark because is it Amy?
It's Joe
Joe.
going and trying to get published.
Yeah, so it's Jill. So it's Joe standing in front of the doorway,
Yeah.
and it's very stark.
Yep.
And there's a lot of moments in this movie with her where we have her in frame. When she tells Lori, "I don't love you. I can't love you. I won't love you." Blah blah blah. That stark frame of her in the middle alone it holds, and so there's this thematic element of her being alone. What did you guys feel about what the opening? What do we think?
I kept wondering what you were thinking about it as somebody who's like, like you're in the process of your book goes live tomorrow.
It does go live tomorrow.
And you've had people like edit your stories
Yep.
and like I remember you talking to me about your feelings and your editor picked apart your beloved book.
Yeah.
And I was watching it going, wonder what this probably just felt really very real to you.
Yeah, it did. And I think every author goes through, like with that publisher going like, well, this doesn't work, take this out. It's very much what every author goes through. We all go through that moment of like when a professional editor just sits down and go, look, you got something here, but this has got to go, and this is what you need to
Rewrite
do.
this completely.
Yeah,
Like,
and not just that, like it really shows what time they're in because he's talking about like if it's written by a woman or
Yeah.
whatever, and she's like, don't put my name on it,
Right.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
because it wouldn't sell as well.
yeah,
And I feel like they jump straight into the feminist stuff like
Yeah.
immediately, whereas in like the other one that kind of takes a little bit of
Yeah.
time. Kind of like to your point about him saying, "Well, she has to get married at the end." Like,
Right.
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
or die.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
or
die.
die.
And I was just like, so that is also something we're going to kind of talk about as we go through the story. Obviously, since it was directed by Greta Gerwig and she did Barbie,
Yep.
strong feminist message in Barbie and all that. And I'm not here to say whether feminist messages in movies is wrong or indifferent. That's not my job here. That's not my point. I am here to talk about the intensity of that message. And Little Women, from my perspective as a non-fan, this is the first time I've been exposed to anything regarding Little Women, it starts to redline the meter of preachy. There's certain points you're just like, okay, but here's the beauty of it. Because of the time it's set in, it's absolutely believable.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're like, no, that's a thing. That's absolutely a thing. And so she gets away with, I don't even want to say gets away with, but it resonates because of the timeline these girls lived through and Maurice Lou Alcott lived and experienced. These are real struggles, that this is actually legitimate. So I appreciate they lean heavily, and I'm sure there are people out there who are just like, no, it's too much. It's too much.
Barbie is even more extreme.
Right.
This is like her warm up.
Yeah. And I haven't seen Barbie. I don't know if I will. I don't,
should.
but it's not again,
It's
like
streaming now.
it's
We still have to. You got to watch it still.
we'll put it on our list, Phil.
Yeah.
It's on the ever-growing list of things we apparently have to watch.
This is your warm up to Barbie.
Yeah.
Another musical that they didn't really say it was
It's a
gonna be a
Disney
musical.
right?
Yeah.
So
True.
we talked about this before. So we get introduced to sisters, and this is my struggle. At the first 45 minutes, I couldn't figure out what sister was which.
I had to explain it to
Yeah.
him so many times.
Yes, I was
Which is
right
so funny
there with
because
you.
it's so clear to me how different they
They
are.
are
They're all
very
very different personalities.
Yes, but we don't
So
get.
I'm like, which one's Emma Watson?
Yeah.
Which one's she?
Yeah.
And okay, I know Joe. We met her in the beginning.
Yeah.
And okay, Amy's the mean one, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't
Amy's the
remember
one that
who
people
Beth
don't
was.
like in general. but she's
She's
more,
awesome.
she's more likable in I think in this movie than she is
Yes.
in any of the others.
I didn't figure it out until about that 45-minute
Yeah.
mark.
Well, and it felt like we got some names tossed around. Like they're like, oh, well, like characters were saying, oh, Joe or whatever. But it felt so fleeting that it was, and again, they were moving progressively through that back and forth flashback present tense kind of
And
situation.
they talk so fast.
And it is. So have you ever watched The West Wing? It's an old school show. Aaron Sorkin wrote it, produced it. First 6 seasons are fantastic. Season 7, like many 7th seasons of shows, is just not great. But Aaron Sorkin writes dialogue like these girls talk. And I made notes about how cool the dialogue is. But yeah, they talk fast. It's Gilmore Girls level fast. It's West Wing's level fast.
It reminded me of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because they're
Oh, okay.
all the kids were in the room recording at
Yeah.
the same time, and they got to like improvise most of their lines. So
Okay.
they're of course they're talking over each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
reminded me of that.
And she wrote it that way on purpose, like based on like how people talk, particularly
Yeah.
sisters are on
Yeah.
top of each other.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Aaron, you've my mom has 3 sisters. You've seen how they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
It is this.
Yeah.
I mean, it was believable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was just hard to keep up with.
Yeah,
sometimes.
because you couldn't figure out who was who, and yeah. So the sisters. So Amy is in Paris with her great aunt.
It's her aunt.
It's her aunt.
It's her aunt. Okay, so and this is where we meet Meryl Streep.
Yes.
Let us take a pause.
She
and
is the
Of
perfect
appreciation
Aunt
for
March.
Meryl
and
Streep.
dedication. She's amazing.
I've known Meryl. I've again. I don't watch a lot of Meryl Streep movies recently, but she's been consistently at the top of lists. In this movie, I said Meryl Streep is boss. Like she is just
Yeah.
that good in this movie.
She embodies
Yeah.
Aunt March.
Yes.
She is. It's a
The
lot.
eye roll and just
Yeah.
you
Well,
need
she
to marry
remind-
well.
She reminds me of Dame Maggie Smith in Downton Abbey. Just that
Yeah.
biting, acerbic wit where you're just like, no, God, ma'am, I'm scared of you.
And Laurie's not scared of her at all.
Right, yeah.
He's just
not.
like, we
Yeah.
kissed you on the cheek, and she's like, "What?" I love him for that.
Yeah. So she's just a beautiful thing to watch on screen, just with everything that she does. I guess how was she portrayed in the previous version?
Oh, she's always like that.
She's all,
mean
okay.
and-
So,
Yep.
so there's no softening of her in.
No,
in
there's
any
there's no soft spots.
Okay.
In Aunt March.
Okay.
No.
So what I love about this movie is each of the actresses disappear into their roles.
Yeah.
You don't think about who they are. There's fleeting moments with Emma Watson where you're like, oh, it's Hermione.
Right.
But there's so few of those moments where Emma Watson disappears into this role.
Yes.
And you just go, you believe that she is who she is. You believe she's the character.
Yeah.
And the duality of her struggle of wanting to be rich and wanting to have all these things, you feel for her, but you also don't. Like there's moments in the movie where you just absolutely hate her. You're like, ma'am, stop it.
See, I thought that was interesting because I've never hated Meg.
Me either.
Oh, she made me mad.
Or like the scene in the very beginning when she like wants to dress fat back, the girl's like, "Oh, your husband won't mind." I've had that temptation. I haven't given into it because we would know. we would have talked about it.
We're
but-
also talking about like a time where they don't have money. They don't have $50 at that point was a fortune.
Yeah.
I mean, they could probably have.
and it wasn't even $50 for a dress.
Yeah,
It
she's
was
like, it's
her-
just the fabric.
The fabric.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so, but I think what I love about this movie is, to your point about the feminist conversation, the feminist kind of theme that they don't shy away from, because her name is Meg, right? In the movie,
Yep.
They don't shy away from Meg, from there being kind of that what she did was wrong.
And she
That-
feels really bad.
Right. But the movie doesn't be like, oh, well, she was justified, girl power, whatever. Like something that you would expect from someone who would a strong writer or producer or director. But the movie lets you know, hey, she wants this. She went after it. But in this thing, it was not the best idea. And it does put tension in the marriage. But you can see the husband's like, we'll figure it out. Like, but you can tell he's disappointed and he's hurt.
And it's
Yeah.
very interesting because in the 1994 one, there isn't that scene of them
Yeah.
like struggling, like so you don't really see that.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting like.
Yeah, it's very much in the book. And what I liked about that, they don't show this in the movie, but I'll tell you, in one of the sequel books, Little Men, Meg's husband dies young.
Oh, okay.
But he, unknown to them, had basically been saving up so that she would be provided for her entire life
Okay.
after he died.
Okay.
So she wouldn't be left destitute.
Okay.
Everyone was just so shocked because they always lived pretty poor.
Yeah.
So I have my esteem for him has grown more just knowing that, having read the second book.
Yeah.
And I like him more in this one than I did the
I do
other
too.
one.
I agree.
Like in the 1994 one, I'm like,
Who are you and why are you here?
I don't know, something
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah, it wasn't a vibe.
What I so yeah, I like. So I like that they leaned into that moment and they allowed there to be that, like, maybe this isn't what you should want, and the fact, even the fact that you did this was wrong, and that you need, and but she does own up to it, and it does come to a conclusion later, which I like how that arc held. It wasn't just a moment of chance. That thread, like many of the threads in this movie, held up.
I just like that they showed the realness kind of like of marriage and
Yeah, it's not always.
I liked that a lot
Yeah.
too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, in our conflict, there's times that I'm just crying and like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I feel bad.
Yeah. I
That's
think
very
I
real.
think there's a conversation I had with you, like, about being hangry sometimes. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like, okay, did you eat? Have you eaten lately?
Yeah.
Do you need
When's
to
the
go?
last time we went for a run, Vicky?
Yeah.
3 days.
Yeah,
it's
like,
time.
Okay, that's great. Let's go take care of that. But it's not done in like a condescending way. It's just like, okay, well, I know what's going on now, and
Yeah.
we figured it out. Let's see what else. So then,
Can we please talk about Laurie in the ballroom scene?
He went
Sure.
off.
I loved this.
Okay,
yeah,
talk.
but wasn't this where he like threw the drink up? He's like Fred or whatever
Yeah,
his
his
name
name's
was.
Fred,
Yeah, yeah, he was not happy.
I didn't like that moment with him because it's Laurie at his worst.
Yeah.
Because he's
Well, that and at that point we have no idea. You and I have no idea what's going on.
right.
Why
We
he's
don't know
upset.
why he's mad or upset. And it's
I think.
like,
Well, I mean, my interpretation of it is that he was mad that she was still pursuing Fred, or was like turning her heart over to him, and he was like, "I'm the one you should be going for." This is all obviously like between the lines. My interpretation, what I was.
Sure.
I think I made a comment to Zoe. I was like, at the beginning of this movie, everyone is so bitter.
Yeah,
Like everyone's mad at Fred for some reason.
yeah,
Because she's like going off on him, and I'm like, why? What was happening? Why is she mad at him? And
right.
we find out later, but
But he's really just he's upset about Joe and
yeah.
he's still dwelling in that depression of that.
Yeah. What I loved about it in the 1994 one, like you see Teddy in Paris and he has a goatee, and
Yeah, he
and
looks
Amy's like, I
different.
despise you, and I don't feel like there's any weight to it. In this one, he comes in with 2 girls hanging all over
Yeah.
him. He is drunk as a skunk, just a disheveled mess.
Yeah.
And you just see Amy's just like,
Oh, she's
who
mad.
are
Yeah.
you?
She's
And you
she's
stood
mad.
me up as well. Like I love the weight of that. I felt like that was earned, but she was
Yeah.
like, I despise you.
Yeah.
And it was
And
like,
I will say I'm proud of Timothy because at first I was like, I don't know if he's going to pull this off.
I feel like he did really well.
So this
Well.
is this Chalamet? Is this the Dune guy?
yeah.
Yep.
I knew I recognized. He's a very young, obviously, many years ago before he hit the
I
Dune.
mean, he's
Great
teeny
jackpot.
tiny. What is
Yeah,
he?
he's a
18?
tiny
He's
guy.
a baby.
Yeah. But he like I said, all of these actors and actresses, they literally just fade into their roles.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't thinking about. In my back of my head, I'm like, I recognize the face, but I am not overly concerned about
Sure.
what the actor it is. I want to see the character develop as it goes. And that's a credit both to director and actor and the writing. Those 3 pieces came together in this movie and just created a beautiful harmony on the screen from start to finish, where by the time you get to the end, you're cheering on the resolution and you're invested and you're just like, all right, that's the way you end it. That's beautiful and perfect in all the ways.
Lots of foreshadowing. I
Yeah.
kept saying that word a lot to Phil.
Yeah. Lots of. They're definitely kind of throwing it up against the wall. Okay, so then there's a play. They what do they make here?
I don't know.
Who is the mystery man at the dance? I think
Oh, Bear.
Bear. Yeah,
She doesn't want him.
yeah. So there's a guy. Is that the guy who's like the older son of the old guy at the house, or the tutor or whatever he
The
is?
tutor
He's the
marries me.
professor. He's a professor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like,
That
who is?
she lives with in that boarding house.
Yep.
Okay. Well, no. I'm talking about the dance scene with the.
Oh, you're talking about like the one where she meets Lori for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Awkward guy who's like,
Okay, so he's
Hey.
okay. Got it.
He's just like a random, I think, suitor, and she's like,
but in the
know.
1994 one, it's another awkward guy. Where
Yes.
she's just
Yeah.
like, I don't want you.
Yeah, no.
So we're living in the present, old home with Beth, play performance, the dance, and then we go. We're going back by 7 years. Hilarity ensues. Joe and Lori. Joe is very severe with Lori. She doesn't like him very much. The dance scene I thought was really good because
I like that.
She doesn't like, so Meg is the dancer, right?
Yes.
So Meg gets dressed up. She goes, and
Oh, I like that scene.
Yeah.
Because and it's ironic, but it reminded me of the ball in Harry Potter
yeah,
when she's puts on that dress and she's
Yeah.
like so beautiful. It was just like that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, we got Hermione again.
yeah. But so she's in the main dance hall, and then Joe and Lori are dancing outside.
Yeah.
And there's that kind of that chemistry that we as watchers are going, oh, is this going to be a thing? The foreshadowing of, oh God, here we go. Like this is going to be a journey.
But I loved it because it's just so playful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Like they're literally just being kids.
Yeah.
It's a heartfelt kind of moment. It's really I got a kick out of it. And then like what I liked about it is how it displays and shows us how different they are, but also how similar they are.
They are
Yeah.
And how their characters are, and who they are. I got a kick out of that. Laura Linney is our mom.
Yes!
She's brilliant.
I
awesome.
loved it because I was like, I know that face and I know the acting
Yeah.
acumen. We're in for a treat, and we are definitely
And I brought this up to you because I wanted you to notice on Christmas morning her mannerism before she comes
Right.
to the daughters, where like
Yeah.
what she's just seen
Yeah.
and the humble house is just
Yeah.
weighing on her. What she's asking girls
Yeah.
to do is breaking her heart, and then
Yeah.
she just
Yeah.
turns it on a dime.
Yep. And she's able to kind of put a brave face. Amy and Lori. Lori is cranky pants with him after, let's see, flash forward. Okay, so flash forward to New York City. Shakespeare with Joe. So she meets Frederick, or we kind of get introduced to Frederick.
The German.
I wish we had gotten more of him, actually.
And you get more in the 1994 version.
yeah.
And in the book, of course.
Yeah, and I just because I feel like we got enough, we got a taste. That's the one thing that I would say we didn't earn the ending with him
Yeah, agreed.
in this movie. So in the end, spoiler alert, it's been a couple years since the movie came out. Joe ends up marrying Frederick, or proposes to him, or they get together, whatever happens. And
Very Sleepless in Seattle.
yeah. Yeah, she finds him at the train station
Yeah.
and runs, and they hug, and then they kiss. There's only 2 kisses in this movie. To be hilariously it's fantastic. I love it. The kiss between Amy and Lori, and then the kiss between Joe and Frederick.
Oh, and when Meg gets married,
Yeah,
too,
Meg
of course.
kisses
Oh yeah,
her.
okay. So 3 kisses. All 3 sisters get their kiss, but it's very interesting how it all pans out. But yeah, I wish we'd gotten more of him, because
Yeah.
if we'd gotten more of that interplay. Oh,
What?
Zoe just had a moment.
Speaking of the kiss, and the 1994 one, wasn't there a time when Amy's younger and she's like, I've never had my first kiss, and Lori like gives her her first kiss? They totally lived that out.
That is true. There's a part where Amy's on her way to Aunt March's
Yeah.
because her sister's sick and they don't want Amy to get it.
Yeah.
And Amy gets super overdramatic, as Amy does, and just like, well, I've waited my whole life to get kissed, and what if I die? Versus Laurie's like, I promise to kiss you before you die. And then he brings it back up in Paris, and Amy won't let him
Yeah.
kiss him at that point because he needs to prove himself.
Yes.
Right. So, yeah,
I love that part. I can't believe they cut that out.
Well, there you go. Write a letter to Greta Gerwig. Strongly worded letter.
Come on, girl, get it together.
Come on.
Romance.
Come on.
That is a cool line.
Zoe is manifesting a sequel that should get redone.
Yes.
Put it on change.org. We're doing a petition. So Amy's mad at Lori. This is in Paris, I believe.
Yes.
And she gives them this she says this thing about the respect it had not earned, or whatever.
I'd rather be respected if I cannot be loved.
Yeah, respect if not loved. And that's really a stark statement to be made, because obviously she's leaning towards what's his name, Fred.
Vaughn.
And
Mr. Vaughn.
and then there's obviously like the Lori thing, and I made a note. I said, "Are we supposed to like him right now?"
No.
And
No, you're not supposed to like Lori.
I don't like him at all.
Lori's being an idiot.
Yeah. So then Joe, we get to Joe with Frederick.
And he breaks her heart a little bit
Yeah,
about her writing.
Yeah, like blunt is needed, though. I said here. He said, "I don't like them. I don't like your stories."
And it's like, I'm being so honest because you're talented.
Yeah,
Like, and I don't think
but
she got
she's
that.
such a hot personality that like she just
She didn't realize that even though he was saying he didn't like it,
yeah,
he at least was giving her the time of day, unlike the publisher. Who
Right.
Was just
Who
and in
just-
the 1994 one he words it, he goes, you have talent, like, or you have a brilliant or a brilliant story
Yeah.
if you have the courage to write it.
Right.
Because it goes into the fact that she was compromising, it goes into the new in a little bit, compromising her standards
Yeah.
to sell. She was writing about like murders and
Yeah.
stuff, and which is not who Joe is.
Yeah, she made a comment in this movie like it's a little bit gory or something. She was talking to her mom or something like that.
Like Beth went like this because.
Yes, because it's a little bit more gory than you would like.
Yeah. She does make the point to him, no one will forget Joe March. Like, everyone's going to forget you, but no one will forget me. And he said, that may be true, but, you know, he goes on about his
Yeah.
stuff. Again, I would love to see more of their flirtatious interplay throughout this movie. We get some of it.
Yeah.
But
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
And the thing about that, so at the ending, where we get a tease of her arriving at that house for the first time, where she's like asleep or whatever at the house, she's remembering back, and then it cuts, and then we don't get back to that until the end again. I would have liked to have seen more of that, because that would have been like, okay, this is believable that she might actually love him versus this whole like, she likes him, she'll
I
put up
wonder
with
if she
him.
did that on purpose, because around that time at the ending, she's talking about like, all right, I'll have Joe get married
Yeah,
to please my publisher.
Right.
What do you think?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I like Bear myself.
Yeah.
We'll continue to unpack this as we go. So then we're back to the flashback to Christmas. I said this to Vicki. Do you believe these sisters are real?
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
believe
yeah.
they
Oh, yeah.
are absolutely
Throwing the pillow in the
Yeah.
faces.
And
That's when
fighting
you
and-
laughed.
And their dialogue is just, I would, for again, 99% of this movie's dialogue is incredible. The writing on this film, and I am a critic of writing in movies and TV shows because a lot of it's just dumb stuff. This is really
Yeah.
beautiful, and it's not like it's Marvel quippy.
Right.
This is actual like weighty conversations, but it's done in a way that's like you believe it. It continues to strengthen the idea that these girls are sisters, and all of that. I get a kick out of it. The writing here is sublime. I don't use those words with a lot of stuff in their movies.
Victory.
So this moment where mom comes back, like you said, and she puts on a
Yes.
brave face because she had just been at the humble house.
Hummel, the Hummels. There's this
Hummels.
German family.
Yeah. So she models for the girls what it means to do to be in community, and she says, "Look, I think we should do this." And the girls are, you can see in their faces, they're like, "But we just talked about how poor we are and how broke we are, and
We don't have presents.
we don't have
It's
presents
Christmas.
and we have food." And she's like, "We should do this." And so eventually, obviously, they all troop out. Laurie watches this. This is his distraction from the tutor when his father is like, "If you could teach my son like manners."
Oh, I love it. He's like standing on the chair.
Yeah.
I asked Zoe, I was like,
such
what
a
is this
vibe.
dude doing? Like,
I love
and
it.
then it shows like he's looking out the window at
And he,
the...
well,
Like
and
it's a girl.
and he says it's a girl, and then like the tutor's like, "Yes, no, there's not a girl. They're not a girl." And he's like, "No." And he steps aside so
It's
that
like, stand here.
there's a girl, and he's like, "Oh, oh, that's later."
We're
when-
jumping
That's
ahead.
later.
Yeah, we're
But
jumping
he's
ahead.
still looking out the
Yeah,
window.
and he see, and so that's it. I
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's when Amy comes
He loves
back
this
from
family from the
school.
beginning. It
Yeah.
goes into more in the book. Like he wants to be part of the family.
Well, the beginning of this is when he's hanging out with his tutor and his dad, or his
grandfather.
His grandfather.
He's an orphan.
He's orphan. Okay, so there's a lot of stark imagery of how he is a part of this little makeshift family in his big house with his whatever versus the girls, how they're always together, how they're always are holding on to each other, they're
Yeah.
always in community, they're always being friendly, they're always being like holding each
I don't
other.
know if they're always friendly.
Well, I mean, friendly
they
enough,
fight a
though.
lot.
But in the
Amy,
end,
there's this part in the movie where Amy's like, "Ooh, Amy."
yeah, we'll get
We'll
to
get
that.
there.
We'll get there. So, it's a very stark comparison between the two families.
Yes.
What's interesting is the grandfather figure starts to warm up as the story progresses, and then we
Yeah.
get to a point where it's just it's brutal what he has to deal with.
Yeah.
And
Oh man, but seeing what those girls were doing, and then giving them food.
Yeah.
And surprising them with that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
yeah, that was kind of cool. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I love it. They're like, it's Santa Claus.
Yeah. Berries, yeah.
There you go. Okay, so oh boy. I'm trying to keep track of all this. So there's so many flashbacks. I think this was the point in which I was still struggling to figure out what was going on. Blah blah blah. I said color plays a big part in these differences. I was trying to
So
tell this.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Warmth for like the warmth of childhood and like
Yeah.
the nostalgia.
Yeah.
And more cold for like the harsh reality of the present.
So we're flashing back to Joe and Aunt Merrill.
March.
Sorry, Joe and Aunt March. Well, Aunt Meryl. I just call her Aunt Meryl because it's Meryl Streep.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
got
was
it.
like,
That's not her name. March.
There's a lot of conversation. I love the dialogue is so fun. Like there's, I'm Aunt Meryl says I'm rich, and
It's like, well, you didn't get married. I was like, this is so arid. This is so arid.
Yes, but
like
I'm
you're just
rich.
like, well, you didn't get married. Why
Yeah.
should I? I don't know something
she
about
then
it.
makes some comment about you could go work in a cat house or on the stage.
Might
It's
as well
kind
be
of
the same
Same
thing.
thing.
You're just like, oh.
Yeah.
That was the connotation for the time, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, it was, and she was just like, I was like, Aunt Meryl.
well, and then she promises her of like Joe's supposed to go to Paris with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sets us up for later, and there's a lot of balance dynamics between the sisters, and which
Especially, I feel Joe and Amy.
yeah, there's a lot of back and forth between those two,
Yes.
and we're gonna get there. So we now are going to a classroom scene where Beth. So here's my feeling about Beth. Until we get to the start of her decline in health, we don't, or we get some. She doesn't really get a chance to shine.
No.
Right.
She's the
yeah.
shy, quiet one.
Yeah.
Like she hangs around the house.
Yeah.
Like she does a lot of like housekeeping. She
Yeah.
has her cats. She has her music. I
Her
told Aaron
dolls.
this is not in the movie. There is technically a piano in that house, but it is so out of tune and bad.
Yeah.
In the book, it's like Beth is the only one that can get a good-ish sound out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's so. I wish we get enough of her later. Like it starts.
Yeah.
It starts to kind of her agency in the movie is returned. Like we get,
But I don't feel like they gave her enough of the
No,
story either,
no,
like they did in the other one.
did she have a bit like in
Yeah.
'94? Was she?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think it was a bigger role,
Okay. Yeah, I did.
which
feel,
kind of made me sad because like Beth is like almost the one that keeps them all together.
She's
Yeah.
she's the heart of the family.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
just her happiness. She just wants her family around her. It reminds me of your mom actually. How
Yeah.
the main thing she wants us to take pictures.
Yeah.
So she can remember these moments. That's all your
Yeah.
mom. That's what she wants.
Well, and with Beth, it. I think to both of your points, we didn't see enough of her being the center of the family in this movie. Not like terrible, like oh my
Right.
gosh, it's an abomination that they did to her. But it felt like it wasn't enough. Like there was something either let on the cutting room floor in editing, or
That could be.
something was missing that really centered that relationship. You feel again looking at them as a sisterhood, as the four sisters. You know they love each other. You know they're connected. You know their strength is that. But you don't get the sense that Beth is the piece of the puzzle that if she's gone, it all falls apart. Until obviously she gets sick and things go wrong. But you don't get that sense. So in the end, like at the end of the movie, when Amy and Lori are at the outside the house packing up her things, and she's just broken up about the loss of her sister, you didn't get this. I didn't feel at least that moment was earned. Like, and that's the 1% of. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and you can tell me I'm wrong. I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong. But it didn't feel earned, that sadness that she feels for the loss of her sister.
Well, for me, she was the last one whose name I could point out
Okay.
on screen.
That's true.
And that was mainly due to the process of elimination.
Right.
Well, there's only 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also feel like in the Winona Ryder version, like they have more of a like memoriam of her. Like
Yeah.
they're making her bed and putting her dolls, and they're
Yeah.
putting rose petals on the bed.
she
and-
always
Yeah.
like took care of those dolls like they were her
Yeah.
children. And
Yeah.
you see this a little bit in the new one, but in the 1994 one,
Yeah.
you see how close she and Joe are. Which she's
Yeah.
really interested in Joe's story. She's like
Yeah.
her number one encourager with
Yeah.
her writing and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, those pieces I think would have helped here
Yes.
because then it would have been like, oh man, I'm gonna miss Beth.
I mean, I still cried. I always cried.
Yeah, I know.
Beth.
I felt an emotional connection at her loss.
Yeah.
But that I think was more because of how they showed her living first, and so you get the hope that maybe because again, didn't read the book, no idea about the story, so I'm going in blind. I don't know that Beth dies until, and I was gonna ask Vicki as we were watching it, but I'm like, nope, I want to find out on my own.
Because you don't like surprises,
No,
and I'm
I don't.
like, this is important that
Yeah.
you.
So the way that they structured that reveal, that's what had the emotional weight for me
Yeah.
because we saw her live, we saw her sister's excitement at her being able to survive, but then obviously in the present scene where she doesn't live, that power and that punch
Yeah.
has a lot more weight because of how the film or how that scene was edited back and forth.
I do
so
like that.
I have. So I had basically the whole movie ruined for me. So the scene where Amy,
Who ruined it for you, Phil?
Zoe's dad, actually.
Really?
Because he's seen all of them all
So-
the way back to 1956.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
There's
So,
a lot
like-
of them.
So, I don't know if we've gotten to it yet, but when Amy gets mad at Joe,
That's coming.
Oh, yeah, it's coming.
It's coming.
well, I'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay. All right. So hold on to your seats, listeners, because
This
we're getting there.
this was big with Aaron in the room watching your reaction to that
Yeah.
scene because it's bad.
Yeah. Okay. So blah 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 blah. Amy and Lori and the rest. Grandfather Beth. So the moment I love the best is there's a lot of moments I love, but so the classroom scene about
Yes.
slavery, and they
Yeah.
basically peer pressure Beth, I think, to
Amy.
draw.
Amy.
Is it Amy?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know.
she's the artist.
Okay, Amy, make it
Another reason why I relate to her.
there you go. To make a drawing of the teacher.
Yeah.
And it's it's mean and whatever, and so he discovers it, and then thankfully we don't get to see him do this, but he wraps her hand like with a ruler and causes her cuts and actually.
It's pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
It is gruesome.
And that's when we see Lori standing up on the chair, like
Yeah,
being
there's a
all
girl.
weird,
There's a
looking.
girl out
And
there.
Amy is hurt and crying, and she's still manages to floor.
Yeah.
What did she say about her feet?
Like my ankles are perfect. I would never twist them.
Yeah, that and again, to your point, Phil. This is all very fast dialogue.
Yeah.
It happens so quick. Like I was madly making notes as this movie went
I'm glad
on.
you did.
Yeah, because it's
Yes.
I
like,
wouldn't have had time.
oh, it was a lot. So so Amy, they get Amy in the house, and she's like, oh my gosh, and then the whole family just shows up. Probably,
I need this picture. I need that painting. This is interesting. What's that?
yeah. Well, I think because they probably saw Amy walking home from their house, because their houses are separate by like maybe a field, if that.
Yeah.
And so they
Yeah.
probably saw her come home, and they're all in there. And I love how like everyone's kind of flirting with everybody, and then the poor tutor is like, oh well, there's a greenhouse.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like,
no
Yeah,
one was
let's-
interested.
moving on.
No one cared.
I felt bad.
But
for
he
him.
is very interested in Meg.
Yes.
And trying to get her attention.
Well, you got to think there's only like 3 dudes in there, and they're all alone all the time.
Yeah,
Like, they need some company.
Right. They need some love. They need some hope. And yeah, nobody cares about the greenhouse. So then the boy, something saves the day. And then we're back in the present day. No, I said present day and then past, and I was so confused.
Yeah,
I was like,
it did
Aaron,
that
the
a lot.
filters, the filters.
It's just like, again, this is that moment of like, come on, movie, get
Well,
me.
because it was sometimes like it would flip to the
Yeah.
present,
Yeah.
but only for like 2 seconds,
Yeah,
and then it'll
we're
go right
in
back.
the past. I'm just
And
like,
I'm like, whoa! If I blinked, I would have missed that.
I just kept going past, future, past.
He did
future,
look at me. He looked at me.
past.
And he was like, "Are we in the past or the future, or the present?" I'm like,
I had to ask a couple times.
did.
I
It
just
was-
kept saying it so he would know, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I know you're lost.
I know. It's
At one point, I'm like, I'm watching the movie. Like, I'm seeing it happen.
I'm trying so hard.
Yeah.
So we're now in the past with the attic scene where he is allowed into the theater company.
"Isn't that scene brilliant?"
I love it.
I love it.
Oh, I was like, this is a whole bunch of theater kids right here.
Yep. Yep. And as
And
a,
Emma Watson doing her regular accent,
yeah.
Yeah.
acting like she's doing an accent. I thought that
Yeah.
was funny.
Yeah. It's pretty brilliant. It's like they're like, he's a real boy. Like, we can't have a real boy.
And they're like clicking their pipes together.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
cracking me up.
So again, when this is those moments in movies where everything comes together, your actresses and your actors and your director and your writers, it is like I would go back and watch that scene again because Timothée Chalamet jumps out of the closet and is like, I'm here, wow!
And he does that in the other one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Too.
So it's really cool.
Well, and then here again, like Beth being like the center or
Yeah.
the heart, because she is the one. If she didn't say yes, we need to let Lori in.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have gone for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because Amy was like, no, he's a boy. Like,
Well,
no.
and there's Beth, who's like scared. She has her family. She doesn't really go outside that of our social circle. So the fact that she even wants to let an outsider in is a huge deal. Much less a boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
We also get introduced to the key to the mailbox.
Which
Yeah.
they don't put it in enough. There's
That's so true.
Is there a lot more with
There's
that?
a lot more
With the
in the other
gifts
movie.
and-
I
did
felt
like-
like there should have.
Yeah.
It felt more. Something about it
Yeah.
told me that it was very significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't see much of it.
Yeah.
True. Like
I-
they'll leave like fruit and like gifts
Yeah.
and like letters in the
Yeah.
mailbox for each other.
So it like we got the introduction to it, but then it comes around once, and then it comes around in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it, and so it did. Yeah. Again, this is that 99.9%.
Yeah.
Like if we just had a little bit more, and it wouldn't have taken much.
Oh, no.
It could have been a montage of gifts and letters and things and smiles and whatever as you're reading.
Because
things.
guess what?
What?
This movie was longer than the other one.
Really?
And it still didn't capture
Still-
everything.
still-
Yeah, it's
Oh,
about
that's just
20 minutes
sad.
longer than the.
Jeez, man. Well, I think it's interesting. Like there's always something to be criticized in movies. We've made that point here on Nerds by Screenlight since the beginning, and I've always made that point. Like, no movie is perfect, and there are. I mean, actually, Back to the Future is a perfect movie because it's taught in at colleges because it's that perfect at film schools and stuff. So the attic scene, the key. Yeah, I wish we would have gotten more of the key stuff, but that scene is just so joyful. It's just everything works and it's perfect. So I don't know where we are.
So confused. We're the future or the past.
I don't know. Amy doesn't know something. I don't know.
She doesn't know that Beth is dying until.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that may be part of what my note is, because then I'm saying back to the past. Amy's angry.
And you're laughing at first, and I had to hold it in because I didn't want to spoil it.
Here we go. So Meg and Joe go out dancing because they paid for their tickets.
Well, they're going to see a play. They're going to see a play.
Yeah, going to see a play.
They're going with
Lori and the tutor.
Yep.
And so Amy wants to go, and because Amy is the youngest.
She's the youngest.
She's the youngest, and so there's a very much of like every youngest sibling is always like, I want to go. Why would you take me with you? Why would you take me with you?
Yeah.
So she gets mad. She knows where her sister keeps her manuscript.
Okay, this is where it got ruined for me.
Okay.
So she's digging through the drawers and
Yeah.
looking for it, right?
Yep.
And at this point, I think Zoe had went to the bathroom or something.
Yeah.
And her dad was sitting next to me, so I'm like, she's looking for her book to burn it, isn't she?
Yeah.
And her dad goes, no, she's going to burn it, but she doesn't write her like magnum opus until after Beth dies.
No.
So right there, I know the whole movie.
Oh man.
And now our listeners know now too. So.
Well,
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. Too late.
Spoilers everywhere.
But yeah, he did that, and I was like,
So
That
sorry.
so I would be upset at that too.
No kidding.
Because that was
can't do that.
It was like that later. We're talking about the later scene where she literally writes "Little Women." Is such a brilliant montage.
Yes.
so yeah, I got Beth dying ruined.
Oh, jeez.
I got her writing her magnum opus,
right.
Little Women, ruined.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
You got 3 spoilers in one.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, and then I had told you like foreshadowing.
Well, I knew she was looking for what she wrote to
because
to
she
burn
says,
it.
"I will get you back," and I was like, "That's foreshadowing."
Yeah.
And I would even go as far as to say that it was even more than just that moment, but like foreshadowing that Amy's gonna get with Teddy or Lori at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really gonna get you back for this. Like,
Yeah. My note on this is, oh no, Amy.
And
that
you
was
said
a
that out loud.
messed up thing to do.
And I was like, yeah, it's bad.
As a writer, that would be almost a nearly unforgivable sin. Especially because she didn't have any copies of that. That was the only copy of what she had written, all the things she'd written that she had. And for that to be destroyed and stripped away, as a writer, okay, maybe if I lost one of my books, I might be able to start over, but it's not going to be the same. I can't remember all of the stuff that I put down. And so if someone did that to me, I don't know if I would have been as gracious to forgive her eventually, because that's all right. That's a writer's heart and soul.
Yeah, this is where you were on the same page as Joe. You're just like, nope.
Nope,
we're not talking. Nope.
Maybe I'll unfreeze it unfreeze my hate for you after 10 years, but
I kind of think the point is everything happens for a reason, because she needs to realize, like, you need to stop writing this stuff. You need to write about your real life, and like.
So there is that thing. Well, and now we also are going to move into the situation where we have the other side of it, where
Joe's temper
gets the better of her because Lori tells her as they're going to go skating, "Hey, watch out for the whatever. It's
like the middle
stay out
part.
the middle.
stay out the middle." And of course, Joe, being the younger sister, you told me I could come with you. I'm going to come with you. I'm going to come with you.
I saw this coming from miles away.
And I think
you did too. She falls through the ice, doesn't she? Go. You want me to tell you? Oh, yeah, she does.
So I think in this moment, in some situations, in some movies or some films or some whatever, it would have felt manufactured. But in this moment, given the time that it was and given the situation, it makes sense. It's like, okay, yeah, she's trying to still redeem herself with her sister. She still wants to hang out with her, and she'll do whatever she can to try and be close with her sister again.
Right.
And so she falls in.
Well, there's this moment I tried to point out to you where Joe could have told Amy about the ice,
But she didn't.
She doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the part that haunts her later.
She looks back and then she gets like a mean look on her face.
Yeah,
and
she just
turns around and
doesn't want
going.
to do it. So this is a cool moment. So we get her out of the water. She lives, thank goodness. There's still death to come, but we managed to keep her out of it. Mom and Joe's conversation.
Yes,
And
in
there's
the
a-
book,
and
pretty
there-
much word for word.
Okay, and there's a moment where Mom says this. She says, "I'm angry every day of my
My
life.
life.
I have no patience." But she said, after 40 years, I'm trying to learn not to be that way or whatever. I love that because what is her mom or the aunt says, "You don't know your mother. You don't know what she feels. You don't know what she feels. You don't know what she's going through." And so this moment where she reveals to Joe, she's like, "No, it's." And it helps us understand the moment where she tries to put on a brave face for her girls.
Yeah.
When she walks into the house.
This movie does really great with a lot of those conversational, like serious conversations. Like when she's reading them the letter from their father.
Yeah.
And that's when like we learn like, well, we found out later, but that's where she gets the idea of naming her book Little Women.
Yeah.
Because he says,
I think I made a note of that when I said, "Okay, roll credits."
yeah. Oh, they said the thing. They said the thing. Yeah.
I do appreciate that because it harkens, it gives us an understanding that their father had called them that. "These are my little women." Like, you think about it, it was all
Yeah.
daughters.
Yeah.
He had all daughters, no boys, and there's no mention of his annoyance or his shame or his frustration with not having a boy. This man accepts them, and in that day and age, even as recent as it was in our general history, there was still like, I gotta have a boy, I gotta have someone to carry on the family name. But the fact that he had all daughters, it's never a bad thing. The daughters never feel guilt or feel like that. And I really like how they portrayed it because again, it's not heavy-handed, but it's just like, no, this man is proud of his daughters. He's proud of the family that he has built with his wife. And I like how that's normalized. Again, it's not preached. It's just, this is what the story is.
And just like hearing the way like he talks to them in the letter, like you can see why they have grown up to be such of the strong women that they are, because he raised them that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is Louisa May Alcott. The family was friends with like Ralph Emerson.
Yeah.
They were really good friends with them. So a lot of like influential people and thinkers are part of their upbringing. I think that that kind of affects the writing of this book as well.
I think, gosh, this whole movie I think is written well.
Yeah.
There's one scene, and when we get to it, I have a complaint about.
Okay. We'll get to it.
We'll
see if we agree. I'm very curious now to hear this. Okay, so then we are back to the present with Beth and Joe. And I made a note. I miss, is it everything? Or something. I can't remember what she said. I don't know. Wasn't important enough for me to write it out clearly. So we're back in the present with Beth and Joe. Something happens. Couldn't tell you. And in the past, Beth is our piano girl. And what am I... what's the...
Stand by. Hold on.
Piano...
Downloading.
Okay, so this is where the piano situation... So our piano girl, and he mentions like, hey, would any of you girls like to play my piano while, they're gone? And Meg and Lori have...
That's later.
They have some tension at some point regarding the piano.
That's around the same time, but a different area. Meg was at a party.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Are we going to talk about Beth first or Meg at the party?
Let's do Meg at the party.
Where they're calling her Daisy, and
Yeah, and I think
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is the scene where I was
Okay.
like, that's Hermione at
All
the
right.
big ball.
Okay.
something you got to understand about this family is that they felt one of their strong convictions was not supporting slavery or childhood labor, so they wouldn't buy like a lot of the dresses because they were made in these factories and these things, so they would make their own clothes, and that's why one of the big reasons why Meg wasn't dressed the way the other girls
Right,
were.
and so the girls kind of make fun of her, and one of the girls says, "No, I'll give you my pink dress. It's okay."
We'll give you a name, and
Yeah,
and then
Daisy.
she's like drinking, and she's a little less modest than she
Okay,
was.
so Lori is upset at her.
Yeah.
Because she is betraying her identity.
yeah,
Oh,
what
yeah,
would
he's
Joe
like-
think?
Yeah.
He's she asks him about the dress. He's like, I don't like it.
Yeah. And I actually agree with him. Like, knowing what I know
know.
now, it's like, yeah, no, this is not you.
Yeah.
This is not the real Meg. And I think, obviously, that new dress piece plays into the tension with her husband, where she got a taste of that society.
I mean, this is Meg's temptation. This
Yeah.
is the thing she struggles with.
Yeah. And I like how it's very subtle. It's not like out there just hitting you in the face like, Meg wants to be a princess. It's, no, she wants the finer things in life.
Can you not say it like that?
But she does, though. You can't deny that. She, in her heart of hearts, she wants to be a princess and be able to buy all the beautiful things. Yeah. If she had her way, which this story doesn't allow her because of both of how she lives, who she is, and where she's come from and where she is, and her husband, she doesn't have access to those things. She wants to be a princess. Now, does she get to be a princess in her own way? Yes. But not in the way that she wanted.
And I would say, I almost want to say like the 1994 one did it a little bit better because actually, now that you say that, I didn't even realize that was that part. And because it was so subtle.
Yeah, it's very subtle.
Because in the other one, she's like putting on red lipstick and she's showing more skin. And it's like.
Yeah, and they talk about like why.
Yeah, and then Lori, when he's doing this conversation with her, she's like taking off the lipstick. And like, it's just more.
And she's also talking about how uncomfortable she is in the dress in reality.
Because like, I mean, her chest is basically hanging out. And that's not her. Like, that's not her vibe.
That's not who Meg is. So it sounds like it was less subtle in the 94 version. And it's interesting to hear.
No, they're very overt with like, oh, didn't your dad's school close because she let in a little dark girl? That's in the 1994 one.
So they go a little.
I wish they would have said that.
They barely
in this
hint on it
movie.
with Amy when she's in there with the drawing. They talk about the Freemason, like the Freeman kind of thing, and that's the closest they get to talking about it.
Because that would have made the school later on way more significant, like learning about that.
Taking after her dad.
Yeah. So there you go. So eventually, Lori comes to her. She's looking out a window. She's looking very forlorn. She says, "Hey, could you just please, be with me and dance with me or accept me? I'm sorry." Like, and so he finally says, "Okay, like whatever." And
he's like, just because I don't like your dress doesn't mean I don't like you.
Yeah.
Like, you're splendid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got that.
It was also at this point where I looked at Zoe and I'm like, this guy is going after all of these sisters.
So
I don't feel like it that way.
I don't agree. Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. I mentioned to you later on in the movie, I was like, Lori needs to pick one of these girls and stick
I
with
agree
them.
with him and Amy. It was ridiculous.
Well, no, he went after all of them though throughout the whole movie.
Not Beth.
Not
Beth.
Beth,
Beth.
really.
Not Beth, but I think
The other three for sure.
yeah, the other. Well, again, it was just like, dude.
And the little nuance, like, Amy has always had a crush on Lori.
Always.
Like, from the
I mean, you see
beginning.
the look on her face.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
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 I'm Amy.
I'm Amy. Yeah.
And
I'm molding my foot so he can see how pretty my ankles are. Ridiculous.
I'm just like, are you trying to be a big brother or are you trying to date these girls? Like, what?
I see
What
it as a
is
big
your
brother.
motive?
I agree. I think Meg is. That's very much. I don't know if other people saw it that way though. They were kind of like, "Oh, he's throwing himself at Meg," but
I think he hint like the fact that he was like, "I don't like you in that dress." Like there is definitely some flirtation there. You don't say that to your sister. You like.
In that time, I would for safety.
Right. Well, well, yeah, but I think within the I would agree. But the context of Lori overall, though, he's a bit of a player early on, and he can't really get his like eye on the right the eye on the right target. Like, okay, I need to be pursuing one of them and stop trying to get three of them.
He loves Joe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Forever.
That's-
Like,
no
that's
question-
never going away.
Yeah, no questions asked.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So then we get we're back and forth between the piano. So
I love this scene.
The guy, he's a grandfather of Lori.
Yep.
He says, "Hey, if you wanted to come over and play the piano, it doesn't get much use.
No one would bother you.
Keep it
we
in tune. No one
promise."
will bother you." And so she goes over to the house and goes and plays the piano.
I love how she accepts that invitation.
Well, and she steps out from behind mom and she says, "I'll do it," and then
goes-
immediately goes
retracts
right
right back.
goes
See, I
back.
love that scene because it shows how shy she is.
Yeah.
But it gives her agency.
Yes.
So she's willing now at this point in her life to take the risk to step up and say something.
She wants to play so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's willing to take that risk so
Yeah.
she can play.
Yep. So then she, trudges over and she plays. I love what happens is that he's up in his office and he sees her come in and he just kind of sits there and he starts to hear her play. So he quietly comes down the back stairs. And you mentioned this actually out loud as we were watching.
I wanted you to catch it.
And so he sits on the stairs. The one thing that I love is you can see him playing along with her. So he
Yeah.
knows the song she's playing because he obviously it suggests that he's an accomplished piano player himself in his life, that he's able to know what she's playing.
Well, he also had a daughter that played the piano
Yeah.
that also died.
So that's the part where we don't know it's coming, but it starts to tighten up the earned like intensity of the later scene that we get with him, but it doesn't do it overtly. It layers on the subtlety where you're like, man, he really cares. My concern, I was like, oh my gosh, is he going to be like a creepy guy in the situation? Like, what's going to happen here? But I was like, no, this is Little Women. We're not going to do that. So they do definitely that. Like he kind of listens, and the suggestion is that he keeps listening as she comes over. Again, to speak to your point, Zoe, his daughter that he lost at a young age, this is kind of almost it fills that space of his empty heart, which
Like
makes
his second daughter.
right, which makes the loss later on hurt even worse. So we're back to present. Meg and John, conversations about the dress. This was the tension I was talking about between those two. And I was, I said, are we supposed to like Meg here? I didn't. And I've talked about it already.
Well, because he's like, I need a new winter coat. Like,
Yeah.
now I can't afford that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
So,
think that makes her feel even more guilty.
Yeah.
so it's an interesting conversation. Thankfully, obviously, spoiler alert, it resolves in the end.
Especially with Joe being like, you're going to get bored of him in 2 years.
Yeah. She doesn't. She
no.
that relationship. Yeah, Joe's a meanie sometimes. She can be downright saucy, and not just saucy, but just claws out.
Yeah.
Which again is a part of her character that.
Like when Laurie tries to in a humorous way, like when Laurie tries to hey, take my arm, and she just punches him.
Yeah.
Kid, leave me alone.
Yeah. So the aunt is back in Paris with Laurie. So Fred Vaughn.
Mr. Fred.
I've always known I'd marry.
Somebody rich.
Yeah, I always knew I'd marry rich. So this is Amy saying this.
Yeah, this is Amy.
She's like, I always known I'd marry rich. I always knew I'm not a poet. I'm truly a woman. And so she's very much differentiating herself between her sister, who is a writer and has those talents, and she's like, I'm not a poet. I'm just a woman. Oh yeah, she said, I'm just a woman. I enjoy Amy as a character because there's so much of her journey that is uneven, but it is uneven in a way where you're like, okay, when are these sharp edges going to get smooth?
Right.
And it's been, I think it's a kick to watch. I did say, I wrote down, Laurie, pick one of the girls, please.
Yeah.
Well, he's already been
Rejected
by Joe at this
which
point.
we don't see.
I know, but you don't know
But
that
he's
yet.
still wearing the ring.
Yeah.
And she's like, your ring looks stupid. Joe gave me that.
My bad.
But I like how this movie doesn't tell us that right now. We're given the information that I'm tired. She says, I'm tired of being second place to my sister in everything. And even to you. And I knew, like, I know you asked, and she said no. We're not shown that until later.
Right.
But we put that in the back of our head and we go, ooh, are we gonna, like, that deepens that dynamic. But it's that they're not going to tell us. They're going to show us later. And that's the power of great direction and great writing, because it's like, oh,
That's the scene I have something to say about.
okay, let's talk.
When he and Joe are in the field and
Okay.
he's like, love me. I was like, God, dude, you are giving me so much Anakin right now. Like, stop it. Like, you showed emotion earlier, and it was very great.
Yeah.
Very believable.
Yeah.
What you're doing right now, you sound like Anakin.
But
and I
he
need you
is
to-
like being a baby. Like that scene, he's supposed to be being like a baby. Like, I
Yeah.
am literally begging you to love me back.
I love that scene.
Yeah, me too.
I felt like it was more believable than the 1994
I would
one.
agree. Yes.
Like in the
And
other one,
Oh, the cinematography.
I know
right there.
he's so desperate, but at the same time, just like a boy, and you believe that Joe is just like, this is a bad. I only like you as a friend. This is a bad idea.
Well, Joe just
no.
there's a part of it, and to your point, I get it, because there is that whiny aspect of just like,
Yeah.
dude, she said no, but I also understand he truly does believe that he loves her, and I think, to your point, Zoe, he does. He will always love her, and that relationship that dynamic will probably never go away.
Yeah.
Well, when he gets married to Amy, he's still wearing Joe's
the ring. Yeah, so that is an
She's special to him.
But I think, to your point, I would argue, and I'm probably going to get told I'm wrong, and I don't care. I think Joe does actually care for him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
As a good friend.
I think there's an element there where I think, and again, I'm happy to be wrong, I think she's afraid of what he would mean to her if they actually did get married. That because she says, no, we'd be terrible with each other, we'd fight, we'd do all these things.
I think that's true. I
She's
agree with
making
Joe.
an excuse because she, in her heart of hearts, and again, this is just a viewer interpreting, as people who, when you read a story, you interpret your own ideas and you put lines between those lines. In this case, I think she knows that if she does say yes, that it will work, and that she doesn't want it to work because she, at that point in her life, has convinced herself that she's not going to get married, and that she doesn't, and her identity isn't in marriage, it's in being alone and being on her own and being.
She fully believes that, like, the whole idea that only women are meant to be for
Right.
love and stuff
Right.
like that, she's against it.
Yeah, and so in that moment, and there's nothing wrong with that perspective. To be very clear to our listeners, we're not saying every girl should be married and blah, blah, blah. Man, whatever. Not our job, not our gig. But in this story, I think Joe is fighting that duality of her identity. The one that wants to be loved and wants to have someone in her life, but the other one who wants to be independent, wants to write her books, wants to live her life on
Okay,
her
I
own.
agree that she's fighting that, but I don't think that she is in love with Laurie. I think she cares about him deeply as a very, very good friend. And she, at the end, I think she reaches a point where she's so lonely that she was like, well, marriage is like best friendship. Maybe I should have said yes. And that's why her mom keeps being like, but do you love him?
Right.
Do you love
so
him?
what's interesting about that, and we'll continue on. We're gonna skip it back between these two. So Laurie asks her twice, "Do you love me?" Then later, when Mom asks her, "Do you love him?" she says it twice. So there is the duality of that question being asked by two different people on opposite ends of that relationship spectrum, or their dynamic, which I think is really cool. And I don't know if it was intentional on the writer's part to have it be asked twice. Her to be asked twice by two people whether or not she really truly loves him. In the way that it's portrayed on screen, I feel like Joe, the characterization of the actress, suggests there's something there. Now,
What do you think, Zoe?
Joe is a very strong and independent woman.
yeah,
Yes.
Lori is not very strong and independent.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry.
he's not.
And I really don't think they would have worked out. They
Yeah.
would have been fighting because they are a little bit too much alike too.
yeah,
She needed a strong man that has been through kind of like the crap that she has,
Yeah.
which was why the German guy
Yep.
is way more of a better fit for her because he is a strong, independent man.
And his temperament's like
Yes,
just.
and they just mesh better together. And I'm not saying like she doesn't care about Lori because she definitely does,
She
but not to
does.
that extent.
Yeah, it's not like that.
I expected her reaction to Lori and Amy. I expected her to have a way more strong reaction. On her face, she looks like she has a little bit of jealousy, but she does not show it. Like, she doesn't express it. You know, she's like, "I'm happy for you," and she played that very well.
After she had just written this
Yeah,
note,
'cause-
like I actually want to be with you, and
right.
Yeah, and like you can see on her face for like a split second that she's a little jelly,
Yeah,
but then she, boom, tucks it away. She doesn't
Yeah.
let it
Which
come
is
out.
huge of Joe,
yeah.
based on her relationship with Amy especially.
well, she just
Yeah.
lost her sister, and then she kind of lost Lori a little bit.
Yeah. All right, back into where we're at. Okay, so present with Beth and Joe on the beach. She says she's telling Joe, she's like, "I'm very sick and you must do it."
Yep.
Yes.
See, your aunt said something like that. It was with
Yeah.
family, and it was said in it was a joke. Like one of your relatives were saying it.
Yeah.
They're trying to get Toby to like sing or dance
Yeah.
something at a talent show, and he was like refusing to do it. And Lori, your aunt, she was, I think, in remission at the time.
Yeah.
From cancer, and she goes up to him and was like, "Would you grant the request of a dying woman?" And at the time, Toby was like, "Well, how can I say no to that?" And we had just all laughed. And so when that line came up, I'm like, "Oh, that reminds me of Lori."
Yeah. She was very very funny and sarcastic, but also very caring. So then we've got the situation where we go into the past again, and Mom's going to Washington because Dad is not well and is injured, and so the money comes from.
Joe's hair.
Yeah,
You're one beauty.
yeah, you're one beauty.
It's a classic line.
It is.
So,
They did have all the classic lines in there. I
Yes.
will say that.
Yeah. So Joe's initially like, I just had to do it. I'm okay. And then at night we see her true reaction, where she is really
crying.
Yeah, she's really, really sad.
It's definitely a girl thing.
Yes.
Yep.
I would be crying too.
Present. We go to the present with Paris, with Amy and Lori. I made the note. I said, "Is this like, actually going to happen? Like, could we please just get this over with?"
It's happening.
And it does eventually,
And they
obviously.
kiss.
So she says, "Don't." He says, "Don't marry him," and she says, "Why?" And he says, "You know why." This is the moment where she says, "I've come second to Joe my entire life. I'm not taking second place."
I'm proud of her for that.
Yes.
Yeah. So then we go back to the past, and the being, oh boy, the piano. So this is where she gets, Beth is shy. Okay. So Beth, there's two pieces to now. So Beth's death begins here. So she, whatever, the piano gets arrived. She goes and she hugs him. She goes to the house and hugs him, and then she goes to the Harrell house because nobody else is going.
Oh yeah, the Hummel. This is another thing where I could relate to Beth.
Yeah.
She's trying to get her sister to go. She's like, "We promised Mom.
Yeah.
Mom told us to do this." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, we'll get to it. Don't worry." And she was like, "Fine, I'll just go by myself." That's pure me.
And she gets sick.
And it makes it so much sadder because she gets sick from the
Right.
scarlet fever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, beach with Joe. This is where she says, even when I'm not here, like she says this to her sister, and it's again that foreshadowing of there's a really good chance she's not going to make it. And I think those lines are preparing us for that possibility, even though it does still hurt when it happens. But her sister's like, no, you're not going to, like, that's not going to happen. And it's like, well,
I love how that worded. That's very similar to the book where Beth talks to Joe and they kind of have this heart to heart where Beth realizes she's dying. Except in the book, Joe figures it out without her saying anything, and Beth is like, "I'm so glad you know now,
Yeah.
so I don't have to keep this a secret anymore."
Right. We go back to the past with Joe and Beth. She's in bed. She's obviously in pain. She's not doing well. I love Joe's line here. She says, "God hasn't met me or my will yet." Like,
I love this whole section of the movie.
Yeah.
Because they're going back and forth between the past when she had
Yeah.
it and the future
Yeah,
when she had it.
there's
And
parallels.
yeah,
Very
the
clear.
duality of that is
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
It's really brilliant because you understand, number one, how much this family cares for each other, but you also understand like that she got away with it once. She lived once.
Well, and what's awesome about that part is it's Christmas, and then the dad comes home.
Yes, I
So
love.
the
That's
whole
Better Call
family is
Saul.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
which is
Beth
crazy.
gets like her number one wish. Everyone's back together again.
I loved it that moment. I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, dad's home." So Paris. So the present, she's in Paris. She's not. No. Fred Vaughn is there. So then we get a. Oh, okay. Here we go. So Meg. Okay, so John and Meg, the sacrifices. So she says, I took it back. He's like, well, whatever. And I made a note. I said, we got an arc. We got a character arc.
Yeah.
We have an arc from Meg who wanted to be a princess and struggled with that and finally figured out, I don't want to be this. I love my husband. I love my life. I love the world I'm in. And I was like, that's just, I made a note. I said, Beth's dying in the past and present, a whole lot of feels in there. Just really, and to your point, Phil, it's absolutely brilliant because it's handled so well in the back and forth that it's paced just the right way.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but like when the doctor's there to being like at scarlet fever, Meg and Joe have already had scarlet fever, so if they had actually been the ones to go to that house
They would have
instead,
survived.
they would have been fine,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Beth wouldn't have died.
Beth wouldn't have died.
So they don't really lean into that, but I'm sure there is some guilt in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they
About her
realized
death.
that because they brushed her off, they in part caused her where she was. So dad is alive. We see the present. We see the past. The dad's still alive, and then the present. And I made a note because I knew it was coming. I said, "Is Beth alive?" ? Nope, because that's when she died.
Yeah.
It was a pretty intense scene. Like, she walks down the stairs and
She's kind of hopeful like
Yeah,
last time,
and she
but it
sees
is
Mo-
Her
darker
demeanor's
in the-
different.
yeah, the darker
she's
colors,
got a bad feeling.
and she sees mom, and then it just kind of collapses from there. I said dad's alive in the present because they do the funeral scene, and I'm like, thank the good Lord we got dad still alive because I can't take more of this family dying. It's not fun.
And there's a lot more of dad in this movie than in the 1994.
Okay.
Yeah, you get like one scene with dad.
Yeah, and that's about it.
Okay.
Did you notice that whenever Beth is dying in the present,
Yeah.
that's when the filter is the darkest.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
see
yeah,
it.
yeah.
After the whole funeral and everything, it slowly and surely gets brighter and brighter and brighter
as we go.
Yeah,
That's
Like
interesting.
by the time that she's at the train, it's like woof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
true.
bright.
Yeah. Well, and I think
Even
again,
in the rain.
the power of cinematography, and Phil, you can kind of speak to this. The power of color and the use of color is
color is very important.
Yeah, it's huge in movies, and
This is why I'm so mad about the Halo series.
Okay.
Recently the actor Pablo, whatever.
Yeah.
He doesn't get my respect.
Oh
He
boy,
said
spicy.
He said you cannot tell a long form story
Right.
without showing your character's face. I'm like, The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Okay, and in all the Halo video games and stuff, there
Yeah.
are some dark, sad moments
Yeah.
in that. And the way that they get across emotion
Yeah.
is with the lighting, with the colors,
Right.
and like you don't need.
Right.
You can say a lot
Yeah.
with lighting and color.
Well, so to your point, I'll agree because what was it? Because Mandalorian's had what 3 seasons?
It's had a lot. People love it.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've watched the latest one, but the first couple seasons, first like 3 seasons, I think, are incredible. And I think he removes his helmet once, maybe once. But you're right. The power of the moments with Mandalorian is not only do you hear and see, like, the power is in his delivery of his lines, the vocal inflections and the intonations, the music, how it's used, how the camera is used,
Yeah.
how the framing is used. That's the power of filmmaking. Filmmaking sometimes, like if you have a movie where you have to see the characters' faces for all that kind of stuff, that's great. But the power of Mandalorian is it relies on all the characters around him to see their reactions, to see them like get afraid of Luke Skywalker showing up to the station to take Grogu back. Like Giancarlo Esposito, his reaction when he sees who it is. You don't need to see Mando's reaction. You get that out of Esposito, and you know what's coming. That's the power of The Mandalorian, is every other character on that set, that's who they use to show the emotion. Then you use your brain to interpret their physical or facial expressions to then take what The Mandalorian's saying and interpret how he sounds or what you think he's looking like. But yeah, to your point, yeah, no, it can be done, and that's
like in Halo, there's a moment where Master Chief loses Cortana.
Yeah.
And he's by himself. You cannot see his face. He's got his helmet on.
Yeah.
But you can tell he is crying inside that helmet.
Yeah.
You know? And that's one thing that I really love about Little Women. This movie is cinematic gold. It is the shots, the scenery, the sets, the lighting, everything. It's beautiful.
I mean, I literally felt like I was in the 19th century, like
Yeah.
It works
all the way.
it tells an effective story, and an effective story requires dialogue. It requires writing. It requires color. It requires filmmaking. It requires sets. It requires acting. It requires directing. It requires editors, competent editors. It requires like everything in this movie. Again, 99.9% of it, perfection. It is a great movie. It does its job. So then we get so Dad's alive in the presence, past. So Meg's wedding. So I like how they structured it because, girl just died. And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, okay, what are we going to do to pull us out of this? Because the audience is in the dumps. We are at the lowest point right now.
It's so sad.
We are mourning the loss of Beth. We are mourning all of the characters' loss of Beth. And it's like, what are we going to do to pull us out? Wedding. That'll do it. And it does. I also made a note, Meryl flippin' Streep in this scene alone.
You laughed, and I hate it. I'm like,
gosh.
you don't say that to a girl on her wedding day.
I love it. I loved it so much. Well, it's on brand for her character.
It totally is on brand.
It's absolutely like she is just like shooting with both hands. Do, 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 and you're
she's
just,
always like half asleep, but still like mean.
right.
Some people just can't help being mean, and Aunt March is one of them.
Aunt Marge, her
I love that scene where she's like passed out with the dog, and she like wakes up, and then she's mad because
Joe stopped reading.
yeah, Joe stopped reading.
Why did you stop reading the book?
Don't sneak off. I don't like sneaks.
yeah, I don't like sneaks.
She's like right behind you. Dude.
Which that's another like that you would so do that.
Yeah, I love Aunt Marge. I love her in this moment because again.
She talks straight up crap to the entire family, like her own brother.
Right.
And
And he just takes it.
He
He's just like,
does.
I like you for paying for the wedding, dear. He's like Lori and
Yeah.
grandfather. The men are not afraid of her.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and what I like about it is that yeah, she's a thorny little old lady, but what that tells
Thorny.
you with the fact that everyone just kind of like it's not that they're mad at her, but they accept her for who she is.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing because you know she's been at it for a long time. She has probably said more awful things than what she's saying right now to each of them because she probably didn't agree with the marriage
No.
of Marnie and the husband. She probably fought that tooth and nail. Like there's history there. But the beautiful thing is they don't tell us that. They show us.
Yeah.
They show us that this was an issue before. And yeah, Aunt Marnie.
Then Marmy has that interesting comment of, you're not entirely wrong.
yeah.
There's a little piece of that story that
Yeah.
we don't know about Marmy.
Yeah. And I love it. I just love that. I love it.
And the only savior of the family,
Yeah.
Amy over here.
The only hope of your marrying well.
And then
Up
she
to
lets
you,
her
dear.
down too. So
Yeah.
Well, no, Lori. I mean, not really, because Lori it ends up being like the banking business. So he ends up making good money. So
yeah.
doesn't marry. I mean, Fred Vaughn had more money, but I think in a way, Amy did not let her family down.
It just seemed in that moment she was almost trying to like arrange the marriage between Amy and Fred Vaughn. Like, yeah, you're coming to Paris with me so you can like hang around him and
And then she gets mad because she tells him that
No.
she's marrying, and
Yeah.
you can
I was
see.
surprised she didn't break the teacup.
Yeah.
But it's Aunt March. She never loses her cool.
Right.
She's mean, but she keeps her cool.
So Joe's statement on marriage is she has different dreams, and I like that that's in there because it does continue to back up the fact that Joe she's a different kind of girl and she's got a different future for her. So then Amy says, Aunt is going to Europe, and Joe's like, oh, with me? No, not with
Not
you.
anymore.
It's Joe. It's me. And I love how Joe lets it go. She doesn't fight it. And I think that harkens back to their battle between the book and the ice. She's taking that moment, that arc of her going, you know what? You can go. I'm not going to fight this. I'm not going to be the cranky sister.
But she remembers what
Right. What
happened.
What happened the last time they went against each other. So then we get the Lori and Joe relationship talk. I agree that it's brilliant. I think it is a little too Sleepless in Seattle. It's a little bit too much. Like it just feels like
he keeps going, I love you, Joe.
Yeah,
I love you, Joe. Like I don't even care what you're saying, but I love you, Joe.
love you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a thing. It was an interesting.
But
scene.
he is supposed to kind of be like a little baby in that scene. Like that is.
I gave up everything for you, and I
Yeah.
didn't care. And
I'm
like,
not
you-
drinking anymore and doing all these
Yeah,
things.
so I did like that because he's like, yeah, I've tried to be who you want me to be.
Yeah.
And
So
it's still not enough.
It's still not enough. But Joe,
I just hate the gaslighting and the whole I'm going to kiss myself if you don't say yes.
right?
And
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Yeah.
dude.
yeah,
When he said that, I was like, you're kidding me.
yeah.
Like,
It was
Well, that's why I say that they're not a good match.
Yeah.
yeah.
well, they're also
Slightly toxic.
They're still young. Like you
Yeah.
think about how old they are. They're not.
Right.
They're not old folks. They're still young in their hearts.
And I don't remember Lori going that deep in the other one. Like, I'm
Well,
gonna
he does
off
say in the
myself.
1994 one, "I'll be hanged if I stand by and watch." Like you marry
Okay.
somebody else,
But
but
in-
it's a little more
in this
explicit
one-
here.
Yeah, yeah.
In this one, he says, like, you will find someone and you'll marry them, and I'll watch.
Yeah.
He says that he'll watch.
Yeah.
When he said that, I was like, what are you talking about, man?
He's just angry. He's just angry that he lost.
But
his,
I love it, the scene when the German guy comes because he's like, "Who is this guy?" And he asks like 5
Oh,
times.
yeah.
He's like, "Hi, I'm Lori."
And
Who
he's
are
like,
you?
"Shh."
I do. Okay, we'll get there. So we're back to the present. So this is your moment you were talking about. So they're packing up Beth's things, and you said in the 1994 version it was a lot more dramatic of how they were packing up her things and they were doing all the things. I like that this moment, and I may be wrong for liking this, but it ends with her having that realization that she is so lonely. and it's done in a way how it's framed and how I remember it being framed is it's a shot from below kind of, and Joe is kind of, mom's over here sitting down, but Joe is standing, and Joe is going through this processing of realizing just how alone she is, and she just she puts her hands over her head or over her eyes and says, "I'm so alone." And maybe this, like you said, maybe this is my solution. I need to, maybe I need to go with Lori.
Well, and how does she say it? It's something like, "I just want to be loved." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and mom's like, that's not the same.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work either.
that's not the same as loving. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have Amy and Lori in France, and that's when the kiss happens.
Yes.
And
I feel like that was the best kiss.
Agreed.
Yeah, I made a note. I was like, yay! So
Finally, Lori proves himself.
yeah,
Yes.
he does. And so then we get to the moment where they arrive, and it's just kind of, so Lori comes in and hugs and comes upstairs and talks to Amy, and then he reveals, "I'm with my wife." And she's like, "What?"
What'd you say?
And she says, "Oh, well, I guess I kind of spoiled it. I married Amy." And
Yeah, and that's that scene where I was talking about, like, for just like 2 seconds, you could see jealousy on her face.
yeah,
Yeah.
But she musters it up and she doesn't let it out.
yeah. I think what's interesting. So this is to your point about when mom pulls it together in front of the girls early on in the movie. This happens with Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes to almost to that same doorway and kind of looks into the gathering and everyone's la, 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 and has that similar kind of, okay, I'm good. I'm not really good, but I'm
And
good.
mom knows.
Yeah, and that's the
Her
beauty.
and mom have that little
that
moment.
look, and that just that moment. And again, that's the power of a good movie. That scene was absolutely earned, and I was just like, yes, beautiful. Like the symphonic moment of that, just over from the beginning of the movie to now, where these two women share in that acknowledgement that sometimes you just have to put the brave face on in the midst of all the tragedy. That's just a beautiful thing for me. Okay, and I made a note. I said one last plot line to close out, which is Joe and her, whatever happens to her.
Yep.
But then we get the old man, the grandfather's moment where he's outside the house. And he's like, I couldn't step inside that house without her.
I love that. And they don't do that in the 1994 version.
They don't.
Yeah.
And it's literally like he's losing his daughter all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that moment is important because trauma is his story. He's had a lot, but he I think she puts her arm around him and walks him in. So he does get into the house.
It's like, I can't be Beth for you, but I'll be here for you.
Yeah. So then Joe burns everything. All the letters.
Almost everything.
Which is just
Except for, what does she keep?
There's a little book and it says, you just see the line for Beth.
Yeah.
And that.
And that starts her off on this journey of, and I don't know how many days. It seems like it's at least 4 or 5 days where she writes this thing. So then we get the new writing. She sends new writing for the whatever.
And that was a great montage too.
Yeah, it
with
was
the papers all laid out on the floor.
and it was not heavy-handed, but it was like, and Vicki mentioned this. She's like, you do that sometimes where I get lost in my writing, where I just
You do it a lot.
Where I just am writing and writing and
I'll
writing.
come downstairs and like I'll hug and I'm like, you do love me. You're just lost in the story, aren't you? You're like, yes. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I've had to learn that.
Yeah, as writers, we get lost in telling the story. And what she's doing is she's writing out the draft and then she's putting it in all in order, and she's taking certain pages out, rewriting or rescribbling or whatever, to the point where she then has the full Little Women story. So she writes, and here's what I love. It's a weird moment. But in both moments where they send each other, where she sends the letter to him and the publisher they look directly at the camera.
I thought that was a little odd.
And
but I did like it.
Stylistically, I think if it had happened before, it would have been smoother. But it was just this jarring, like, what are we doing here? Yeah. What is this? Like, I get it, but I'm also just like, you've never done this before. Why are you doing it now? At the end of the movie. I don't know how you guys felt about it, or if it was just like,
It did stick out to me. I was like, that is interesting choice of camera shot you did there, but okay.
I mean, that publisher guy is just a very interesting character.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, and I want to talk about him in a second as well.
I want to hear what your thoughts about him.
Okay, so the aunt dies.
Yes.
And she leaves Joe the house. Can you believe it?
And it talks about in the 1994 when how the house is drafty.
Yeah.
And they're like, it was so big, but she wasn't able to like keep the whole thing because it's so huge. And what are we supposed to do with this place?
Right.
What I really love about that scene where when the girls are going through the house, and they come out and they're like walking across the lawn. Yeah. At this point, like you can the way that they're all in a dress.
Yeah.
But it's all a different style dress, and you can tell like how different their lifestyles are now.
Yeah. I mean,
like Amy is in this beautiful like ball dress, and Meg is in like she's got on a dress, but it's not as pretty as Amy's.
it's a little more simple.
And then you just got Joe there
And just like a normal.
in a normal.
Just like I don't have time for this fashion stuff.
Yeah.
Can't move in this thing. Meh.
Yep. So
There were some good lines from that scene. I don't know if you wrote some down, but you were like some of Amy's lines in particular. Because they were saying that she didn't feel like the story she was writing was very brilliant, or it was about their lives and it wasn't very interesting.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, I don't know about it. So then we meet the guy, Frederick. Okay, so it's teased of her meeting him in the first time. And then I guess, so do we get the past before the present with him? I'm trying to remember.
There's a quick leap back into when she first meets him, and she doesn't call herself Joe. She calls herself Josephine. She doesn't mean to. She just goes by Joe because it doesn't really get into this in the movie, but it really gets into it in the book where Joe, well, in our generation, we would call it a tomboy. Like she wants to be a boy. And she does mention it in the movie now that I think about it.
Yeah.
She wanted to go to war and fight. Yeah. She can't because she's a woman.
Yeah. So then Frederick shows up at the house. Mm-hmm. I had been waiting for this because I was like, he's got to show up. He can't just not show up. Like, there's no reason for her to go to him. He needs to come to her because he knows he'll find a way to find her. And so she's coming downstairs and she's hungry because she's just done all her stuff. And she's like, oh, and they're like, no, there's somebody here to see you.
I don't know anybody.
I don't know anybody.
Just eating away. It gets very you. I feel like you just come up the stairs and be like, Aaron, there's someone at the door. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
No, look.
So she turns and it's our man, Frederick. Mm-hmm. And everyone is just like, who is this?
Well, especially Lori.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lori. Who are you?
Who's
Amy's
that?
like, stop it.
Who is this man? Everyone's like, shh, quiet. And so we get to see kind of the meeting, the conversations. They eat and drink together, and they're laughing and all that kind of
He
stuff.
plays the piano.
and
It's a big deal.
So the moment where he says, you know, she's like, oh, it was our sister Beth's. It was her thing. He's like, well, I don't want to cause offense. And they're like, you won't cause offense. Please do play. And that moment I wrote, his piano playing is, sorry, this is emotional. Like this, some of this stuff is really, like, it'll pull at your heartstrings in the best way possible. With his piano playing, Beth is brought to life in that moment where her spirit is kind of present with the family. And
doesn't that song that he's playing, like, it doesn't show it, but like when he leaves, like this song still continues to play, and like doesn't it keep going all the way up until Joe runs up to him?
And this is going to sound weird when I say it, so I'll try to explain. Music does that.
Yeah.
Or I know it's a really good day in my music class if with first and second grade, after we're doing a song, after we line up, they're still singing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I'm supposed to be quiet in the hallway, and they're still singing the song. They can't stop.
Yeah.
That's when I know this has been a good, because that's what music does.
Yeah.
If it stays with you.
I wrote here, this end moment is earned. So then he leaves, the door closes, and she turns around, and they're all just staring at her. Like, what are you doing, girl? Why did you... Well, she says, you love him. No, I don't. She says, you love him. You smiled more. Like, no, girl, her sister knew. Her sisters knew.
And Lori just like, let's get the carriages. Let's go.
Laura, you need to move.
He doesn't do... Like, so his wife is Amy, right? So Amy's like, okay, you need to go get the carriage. Go get it. And then...
Because Laurie's... He doesn't really think.
Right. And as she's stomping up the stairs, she says, Lori, get the carriage. We got to go. And he's like, okay. Like I love how he's just kind of
See, that's why they're good for each other.
Yeah.
Amy is good for Lori.
Yes.
Yeah. So they all get in the carriage, and they're on their way. And the interplay is between the editor's office in this moment. And what I love about the editor is, and I love about this, and it feels a little clunky, but I still like it, is his girls, the editor's young daughters, 3 of them, which is hilarious. I love how there's 3. I like the comparison. Get a hold of the draft, and they like.
Where's the rest of this?
What happens? Where's the rest of the story? Why? What happens?
You're publishing this, right?
You're publishing this, right? And he just kind of goes,
In your face, sir.
So then, like, we get the duality of her sitting before him and him going, and I love how he comes full circle because he says, well, what happens to her in the end, or what happens to this? You don't explore that. And she says, well, and he's like, no, the story has to end with her. And what's interesting about it is that it starts out with the actual scene of her chasing him down, but then it stops in the editor's office, and she goes, why did you say, well, I'll only publish this if she ends up with a guy. She kind of goes, okay. And then we jump back, and I don't know if you noticed it, but the scene starts over with her getting out of the carriage.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if we're now viewing the story that she's written
versus
the actual life, which I know it's not. But I love how that was kind of like, whoa, okay. So we're now narrating both her real life and the actual written story as it continues. And so in typical romantic comedy fashion, she ends up at the train station in the rain looking for him, and he's right behind her. And he says, Joe.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. And it works here. It doesn't feel like it's cheap or corny because then they come together and they kiss.
And he becomes an employee in her school.
Yeah,
Yep.
because he's a professor.
Yep. So I love the book publishing scene.
Yeah,
Can
that
we
was
talk
cool.
about the fact that she fought for those royalties, Aaron?
Yeah,
That's
she-
important.
Yeah, I was so proud of her. I
I
was
was
like,
too.
girl, do not give
You were
up your
cheering for her,
copyright.
too.
I was like, you own that copyright.
Well, and Vicki, you mentioned that that's what she did in real life. Is
Yep.
She owns she owned the copyright. She fought for that because back in the day, and this is again some behind the curtain, whatever. Back in the day, as an author, you probably didn't own your copyright. The publishing company owned it and could do with the characters what they wanted. Very few authors, especially women authors, were able to negotiate for their own copyright and for the royalties and for the money and all that stuff. And so what he was trying to do is he was trying to throw money at her and say, well, I'll take your copyright. I'll give you $500 and I'll give you this, that, and the other thing. She's like, no, I don't, that's not how we're going to do this. And so she kind of pushes back and forth. And she eventually, I think ends up with like 6.6%.
Yeah.
And her copyright's retained. But I love the scene of the book being put together because it's very much, I don't know how to explain it. As a writer, it just brought me joy because I'm like,
Yeah.
I would love to be able to sit in the printing facility watching my book be
Yeah.
printed
Yeah.
and rolled out into the world. But it was just a moment of like, her character journey is done. She's been able to do what she's always wanted to do, which was write a book. Which again, as a writer,
And I kind of think it made it seem like she could have both. She can be a writer and have love.
yeah. And
Just
I
kind of like the feminist dream, right? You can
you can
have
Yeah.
your career and you can have
Yeah.
love.
Sure.
I agree. And I liked it. Yeah.
Which you said that the whole school scene at the end wasn't in the.
No, they don't.
That's
really,
more like Little Men. That's in
Yeah.
the next book.
Okay.
But I love being able to see like all the kids in the school. And,
Yeah.
I was
all
like,
the
this
whole
school
family.
looks fun.
It
Yeah.
is fun.
Yeah, and we get to see mom and dad still
Yeah.
alive and kind of that ending scene. And so there's the movie.
There is the movie.
There's
Yeah, basically.
So
Yeah.
what do we like? We'll finish with Vicki, but we'll go around.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
we'll
fair.
start with me. Rating out of 10. I'll start with me. And again, this is you have to please hear me loud and clear out there, audience who's listening. There's about 13 to 15 of you who regularly listen and download. This is not me being jerky or whatever. This is being truthful. It's a really great film. You really need to see the Little Women version. Probably go back to the 1994 one and watch it yourself.
We might have that on DVD. I'll look for it.
Yeah, but even just out there in the world, watching these movies it's good material. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Looking at this movie, if it wasn't for the first 45 minutes, it would be a 10 out of 10. If that first 45 minutes had been a little smoother and been a little more paced correctly and not so janky, it would be a 10 out of 10. But at the moment, it's a 9 out of 10. But and that's because
I'll
of
take it.
the writing, the directing, the acting. Every single actor and actress in this movie, they own that role.
Can you see why when I first saw the Barbie trailer, I was like, Barbie. But then I
Yeah.
saw a thing and I saw who the director was. I went,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I think I need to see this movie now.
Yeah.
Because I had seen this.
This is the only movie probably of Greta Gerwig's that I've watched.
Right.
And again, a movie is not just a director's production; it's everybody. Everyone has a
Yeah.
play. But whoever the group that did this between production, directing, editing, shooting, acting, movie, sound, all the things. This is a really good movie. It's really solid. So I would give it a 9 out of 10. Zoe?
I would definitely give it a 10 out of 10 because I know the background and history.
Yeah, it helps.
And so I liked this new version of it doing the back and forth between the flashbacks. I
Yeah.
thought that was a really
It
awesome
does help
idea.
when you already know the story.
Yes.
That gives you a big advantage.
Yeah.
So, what
Okay.
did you think?
I'm basically going to echo Aaron. Like
Yeah.
it's not very newcomer welcoming.
Yeah, friendly or whatever.
Like now, I bet if you and I went and watched it again,
yeah.
knowing that, like, let's say 3 months later from now, we
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
it again, we probably maybe would give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But it's just, you do kind of need a little bit of pretext of going in and
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah, I want you to watch the other one because it is in chronological order.
After this, I'll look through like a bucket we have and see if I can find the DVD. There's a chance it's there.
I used to have it on VHS, like way back.
Oh man,
Oh, that's old school. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So there you go. There
10
is
out of 10 for me. 10 out of 10.
yeah, Vicky's. Well, this was your 10 out of 10 movie.
Yeah, this is the movie I was watching. I mean, it's interesting watching it with you guys because I can see, okay, it has flaws. It hurts for me
Yeah.
to say it out loud,
Yeah.
but it's still 10 out of 10. I just think it's beautifully done.
Oh, yeah. My 10 out of 10 movie definitely is not amazing by any means. But to me, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
what-
If you're feeling really ambitious, everybody read the book. I
Yes,
know it's
I have
long,
not read
but
the book,
it's
so I want to.
really, really good.
Phil, what was your movie again?
Mine is A Knight's Tale.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm excited. To
But
see
mine's next week.
That. What is yours? Is next week? Is what?
The Joker with
Joker.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Should we like prep them for just like one scene? When he gets onto the talk show, Vicky, brace yourself.
Oh, and that's at the
it.
very end.
It's at the very end.
Okay.
So just, it's,
But that is the most.
it's the only time this movie is like it's hard to even call it like a DC Comics film
Yeah.
movie. It's because it's more like reality. It's more
real life.
and so it's like the origins of what got this guy to become the Joker.
Gotcha.
And you don't see that until the very
The very end.
Oh, okay.
At the very end, he's full blown Joker. Like he's the man.
Okay.
But up until then, you're going through his struggles and
Yeah.
His life.
So
Okay.
just brace yourself
That's fair.
at the talk show.
Thank you for the heads up.
Yes.
Okay. So next week is The Joker by Joaquin Phoenix.
Going in a
With
completely different direction.
Yeah, we're going-
with this
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
going from Little Women to woohoo.
And then comedy.
Yeah,
After.
it'll be great. It's gonna be great. So the only thing I'll mention is that the Mean Girls possibility is in the future. Watching the new one.
Yeah.
Reviews, and I was trying not to hit it too hard with Zoe because I know Zoe loves Mean Girls and the Mean Girls fandom.
Dude, there was like this one theater that was giving out these.
Yeah, AMC is giving out Burn Book popcorn tins.
Oh jeez. So Zoe is very much attached.
And I got to figure out if it's on streaming, because I think they were just going to stream it and then they'd put it in the theaters.
Yeah.
So I got to see.
Okay,
If it's
we'll
on.
take a look. Until next time, we will see you next week. Well, we won't see you. You'll listen to us next week.
Hear
as,
us next week?
Yeah.
as we dick. as
Hear
we-
from us.
Yeah,
That
you'll hear
sounds better.
you'll hear from us next week. Outside of that, my name is Aaron,
My name's Vicky.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Zoe.
and this has been Nerds by Screenlight. And go see Little Women. Go check it out. Read the book. We won't dig into the other versions of it that have been produced, but if you're willing to do a deep dive into the Little Women fandom, which is a weird thing to say, but
Yeah, there's a fandom
It
for
is,
Little
yeah.
Women, for
it
sure.
absolutely is. Well, and it's a timeless story that continues to be told, continues to be relatable, continues to have power, and that's the power of literature. Well, until next time, we'll see you later, and yeah.
Stay warm.
Yes.
Bye.
Okay.
The raspberry flap of ours will be out in a moment. The kitchen is closed.
You've been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, the language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.